Ok, buenos días con todos. Bienvenidos a esta segunda fecha de Empecemos Entendiendo webinars del mes de diciembre. En esta ocasión tenemos unos invitados muy especial. Desde Tel Aviv, Israel, nos está acompañando la empresa Tipa de empaques compostables con Avital Levy. Para hablarnos acerca precisamente de esas soluciones en empaques flexibles compostables que ellos tienen. Avital es asociada de marketing en Tipa desde 2019. Su experiencia previa es en marketing y comunicaciones, relaciones con los clientes y diplomacia internacional en varias empresas e instituciones europeas. Le apasiona la sostenibilidad y la concientización medioambiental. ¿Ok? Antes de cederle la palabra a Avital, les recordamos, Avital va a brindar su exposición en inglés, pero tienen la posibilidad de escuchar también la misma introducción simultánea con seleccionar en la parte inferior de su pantalla la opción español. De tal manera que ustedes van a poder ver la presentación de Avital y escuchar la voz de Nicole, quien es nuestra intérprete. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces, sin más, le cedo la palabra a Avital para que pueda iniciar la presentación. Thank you, Avital. Thank you, Tipa. Let's go.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. It's my pleasure to be here. And it's an honor for Tipa to have been selected to participate in this series of webinars and to lead a webinar dedicated to the topic of increasing importance, that is changing the future of plastic packaging. And I would like to start by giving you a brief glimpse at how it all began. So Tipa was established some 10 years ago by our two co-founders, current CEO Daphne Nissenbaum and Tal Newman, in the midst of global plastic waste crisis. However, for our two co-founders, it was also something personal. They both had kids, and their kids would take plastic water bottles to school. And then sometimes they would bring them back home to be refilled and reused. And sometimes they would forget to do it and leave them at school. And so the two co-founders were talking with their kids and they were talking with each other. And they came to a conclusion that something has to change. Something needs to change regarding the waste we produce, regarding the way we treat this waste, so that we could turn the waste into a resource. So this thought has been quite daring and original, taking into consideration that most of the waste that has surrounded us for the past 6 decades, at least, has been non-biodegradable plastic waste. If you go to a supermarket, if you have a look at your shopping cart, at your grocery bag, most of the items that you'll see there, food items and other consumer goods, they will actually be packed in single-use plastics. Just think of a chip bag, of an open bag with the frozen or fresh veggies, of a pouch with pasta, pouch with the dry pet food, and so on. And so these all are single-use plastics that we use and consume every day. And as a result, during the past 6 decades, a shocking number of over 8 billion metric tons of plastics has been produced. And most of it is still around us today. To make things even worse, around 2/3 of this plastic packaging, of this plastic produced, has been used only once prior to discarding it. So just think of all the single-use plastics. If we take, for example, a carrier bag, just a simple plastic bag, on average, it is being used for 12 minutes before being discarded and ending up mostly and mainly in a landfill. So I've got these figures to illustrate this pretty grim situation concerning the treatment of plastic waste. As you can see, only 9% of plastic waste gets recycled. And this number is even lower for flexible packaging, which is the focus of Tipa. So the 9% also includes rigid packaging, such as bottles, which, for example, get recycled pretty well at a really decent rate. But if we speak about flexible packaging, bags, pouches, and so on, so only around 4% get recycled in Western Europe, and this number is even lower globally, around 2-3%. So why is that? Because recycling does sound really great in theory and on paper. Well, the thing with a flexible packaging is that there are a number of reasons that make it a challenging material to get recycled. For example, if we speak about thin plastic bags, you need to get a big mass, a really large quantity of them to make it economically viable to recycle it. Furthermore, very often these bags are difficult to sort, and especially if they're not labeled properly. Then if these bags, which often happens with food packaging, are contaminated with food, they're not suitable for recycling either. So they will simply contaminate the recycling stream if placed there. We also encounter lots of multi-layer structures, plastic materials comprised of several layers that are not suitable for recycling as well. You would need to separate all the layers first. And so due to all these reasons that make it either economically or technically not viable and nearly impossible to recycle most of flexible packaging, the recycling rate for it is very, very low. And most of flexible packaging gets either incinerated or even more often discarded in landfills. So incineration or waste for energy is a polluting and not a very sustainable method for waste treatment. And so is landfilling, and unfortunately, landfilling remains the most popular waste management method. Around 80% of all the plastic waste eventually ends up in landfills, or sometimes leaks to the oceans, to the seas, natural environments, open areas, and so on. Where this plastic waste heavily pollutes the environment, spreads microplastics, and you will find microplastics in all the strangest places that you wouldn't think of, such as Antarctica, the bodies of marine animals, our own bodies. Furthermore, plastic waste, which is landfilled, is polluting the environment and contributing to climate change and global warming. And to make this, to give you a full picture, I must also speak about what happened in China in 2018. Perhaps some of you remember it, and perhaps some of you, being players in the field, were even affected by this. So in January 2018, China declared an almost total ban on plastic waste, on most of types of plastic waste, in total 20 types of waste. And to understand the importance of this decision, we need to look back and see what has been happening until January 2018. So in the years prior to this date, China used to be the main importer of plastic waste, and would import around half of world's recyclable waste. So what was happening is that lots of Western countries that were large manufacturers and producers of waste, they would simply export this waste to China. And there is a saying, out of sight, out of mind. So you just move your waste from one place to another. You hope that it gets recycled there. And then you continue your production, production of your products, production of more waste. And so it goes. And lots of people were believing and hoping that the waste actually gets recycled there. And so did I. So it came as a shock to find out that actually that China was becoming overwhelmed with all this waste. It couldn't handle these quantities. Furthermore, this waste coming from Europe and US and other regions was often coming in very poor quality, in very low value, often contaminated with food, and for other reasons not suitable for recycling or not very viable to be recycled. So it was just being landfilled in China, heavily polluting the environment. And so when the pollution levels reached alarming levels, China decided to put a ban and to stop the import of waste. And this decision, this announcement became a shock and sent shockwaves around the world. And it also became a waking call for all the involved players, then suddenly they had to find a different solution. They had a realization that it's not okay anymore. It's not viable to move waste from place to place, showing this as a solution. And they were forced to look for different solutions and to rethink their waste management strategies. Of course, this is a long process, and we're still seeing slow or faster developments as a result of the Chinese ban. So, for example, we've seen at Tipa, we often encounter new companies that come to us and that say they want to go compostable, they want to become more sustainable. And sometimes it comes from their own inner motivation, from their own sustainable ethos and strive for sustainability. But very often they also say that it was their customers that actually encouraged them to demand sustainable packaging, a more sustainable solution. And so we see a much more environmental awareness as a result. Really, the Chinese decision and the recycling problems and the mismanagement of the waste in China brought global attention to these topics, attention that was very much needed. So we also see various governments and companies trying to reduce and to encourage to reduce production of plastic waste, to encourage alternative types of packaging, to also create new waste treatment centers and so on. And all of these developments are very much needed, taking into consideration that the flexible packaging market size currently is estimated to be at a huge, really large number of $160 billion. And this number is constantly growing, expected to reach $200,000 billion in just another few years. And this packaging industry, flexible packaging industry, at least until now, until recently, hasn't had any viable end-of-life solutions. And as I said, the need for solutions is becoming more and more apparent, taking into consideration the growing consumption and production rates. So if until now we've been dealing with a bit over 8 billion metric tons of plastic waste produced in the past 6 decades, if the consumption and production rates continue growing, we'll be actually dealing with a triple amount in just 3 next decades. And so let's talk a bit more about the solutions that exist currently and solutions that are more innovative and that can be considered to be solutions for the future. So we've already discussed the linear waste treatment method, not so much treatment, more like management. Linear waste management is firstly symbolized by landfill. So landfilling means that there is a production, there is usage, and then there is waste. And then this waste is put into a regular waste bin and it ends up in a landfill. But when the waste quantity, the garbage quantity increases, so do the pollution levels. So this method is heavily polluting and not at all sustainable. And therefore, we can feel the lots of attempts to move to different waste treatment methods, such as recycling. And recycling is a more, but not entirely sustainable solution. Why? Because when you have recycling, first of all, you have production, then you have usage, and then you revive the product for a bit different use, often as a slightly different product, as a lower value product often, because actually each time you recycle, you downcycle. The product, the quality, the materials start to lose their properties and their quality. And so you can revive this, the materials once, twice, several times, but eventually you do reach a limit where there's nothing else you can do with this product, with this plastic, whatever it would be. And it eventually ends up in landfill. Again, as discussed before, recycling does work quite well for some materials, even for rigid plastics, whereas it doesn't work for others almost at all, such as a flexible packaging. And therefore, Tipa is focusing in particular on this type of packaging. And so I'd like to introduce another method, another waste more than waste treatment method, actually the method to turn the waste into a resource, which is often called the natural recycling, organic waste recycling. So composting has been used by nature. It's been appearing in nature for thousands of years. So in this case, when we create man-made compost, we actually just copying nature, and it's a great thing and smart thing to do, because in nature nothing gets wasted. In nature, when you have organic material, it simply biodegrades and returns to nature as a resource. So it's similar with a man-made compost. So for those that are not very aware of the composting process, how it works, I won't go into a lot of details now because there are different types of composting, different composters. By the way, we have a great blog post on our website, which is tipa-corp.com. How to start your own compost. So you'll find more information there if you're curious. But just to say it really briefly, for composting to happen, you need organic material, you need components, then you need the composting conditions, which are high humidity, high temperature, and oxygen. And then under these composting conditions, the components will start to disintegrate into small particles. We're talking about compostable packaging, not into microplastics. It will break down into small particles that can be eaten and digested by bacteria and other microorganisms, and eventually turn into compost, into rich soil, into nutrient-full soil, which is perfect to be used for regenerating, for fertilizing and nourishing eroded or degraded soils, and basically ensuring soil health and ensuring that healthy produce can be grown there. So at Tipa, we understood that if we're looking for perfect packaging, we don't need to look far because nature already invented it. We just need to model nature. So what we did following our co-founders' vision is we created a packaging that behaves just like nature's packaging, just like organic waste, and has the same end of life. So for example, if you take an orange or if you take an apple, they have a protective peel. And once this peel is no longer needed, it can be discarded and it will fully biodegrade. Perhaps it will be eaten by an animal, or it will simply biodegrade in the soil and return to the nature as a resource. And so it's the same with our packaging. Under composting conditions, it will fully biodegrade in under 6 months. But we didn't only want to create compostable packaging. To be entirely precise, we did not invent compostable packaging. We did not invent compostable materials. They already existed in the market, but their scope of usage was very limited. The applications you could use them for were limited. So for example, if we speak about starch-based blends, about the starch bags, they're not durable, they're not transparent, they do not have barrier properties to ensure a long shelf life for food products. So they definitely have their own niche. For example, they do great garbage bags, and there are a few other options how to use them. But they cannot be used for high-end food packaging or high-end fast packaging. They do not resemble conventional plastics much. So when we established our goal, we decided that both things are equally important to create packaging with a compostable, sustainable end of life, but also to provide a good, high-quality packaging so that our customers would not need to compromise neither on the quality nor on the sustainability aspects. And so you can see in this slide an example of our packaging. Here is a standard pouch produced from our transparent laminate, Levy 607. And I'm happy to elaborate a little bit on our packaging properties, taking this standard pouch as an example. So our packaging is designed and structured, created in a way that it would mimic all the positive properties of conventional plastics. So first of all, if you take it, and I'm sorry that I'm not able to share any samples virtually with you, it was a live meeting, I'd be happy to. But if you take it in your hands, if you feel it, it has a great hand feel. It looks and feels just like conventional plastics, but there is more than that to that. So it also has these the same or very similar properties, such as durability. Our packaging is very durable. Transparency. As you can see in this photo, the product is fully seen, fully visible inside the pouch. It also has sealability. All our packaging can be heat sealed. Printability. We know it's very important for brand identification, for brand messaging and compostable messaging. So we offer compostable printed solutions up to 10 colors using Flexo and digital processes. There is also the important aspect of machinability. So our packaging works perfectly with conventional plastics machinery. So it's also manufactured on conventional plastic machinery and using the existing chain of supply. So there is no need to purchase any rare, uncommon, or expensive machinery. And also, last but not least, our packaging provides barrier properties, and it can ensure it is shelf stable. It will not biodegrade on the product, as we've heard such stories about some lower quality packaging. And it will also ensure a required shelf life for the product, and therefore it's perfect to pack food while remaining fully compostable, of course. And the compostability is certified. We of course do our own testing, but it's important to us to also have an independent certificate, and therefore all our films and laminates go through a rigid certification process. And they're certified by such prestigious international globally recognized certification agencies as TÜV Austria, BPI, and also Australian Bioplastics. And I'm happy to illustrate the disintegration and biodegradation process with this visual. So here you can see our zipper bag, which was produced from our home compostable single ply Tipa 302 film, which is a very common option for some food products, such as fresh produce, as well as for fashion items. By the way, the zipper is home compostable too. What we did, so basically the home compostability means that you can place this zipper bag after its use either in your home compost, your backyard compost, your community compost, your home compost bin, and so on, or in an industrial composting facility, which means that there is more control over the process. The process is usually faster, it involves higher temperatures, and so on. But both ways are completely fine. And so we followed the disintegration and biodegradation process, and you can see it's documented here. So what happens with our packaging under composting conditions, as I explained before, it starts to break down into small particles that are then eaten by bacteria and microorganisms, and eventually it turns into a nutrient-rich compost, into a rich soil that acts as a natural fertilizer for degraded soils. And so in this slide, you may see how our packaging serves as a fully circular solution for a circular economy. So our packaging is partially bio-based. We produce it from fully compostable polymers that come from both bio-based and fossil-based sources. No conventional plastic is found here, only fully compostable polymers structured so that they would biodegrade under composting conditions. Then we manufacture our films from them, and these films that are films and laminates that are certified by appropriate certification agencies as either home or industrial compostable are already commercially available for sale, mostly to converters, or sometimes we also sell them to the food brands that work with co-packers. And I'll be happy to elaborate a little bit more about films, different types and different properties of them in the next slide. Then, of course, we also produce printed reels of films and laminates, which we often supply to co-packers. And as mentioned before, we print up to 10 colors using compostable inks so that they do not affect the compostability of the final structure. And we use flexo or digital processes. Of course, we also produce pre-made packaging, which is something very common and very commonly requested by food brands. So in this photo, you can see a stand-up pouch produced from our laminate 106, which is a 3-ply laminate with a very high oxygen and moisture barrier. And this means that it's suitable to pack sensitive foods like dry food, dry fruits, nuts, powder, tea, and so on, because it provides the required barrier to keep the products fresh and to ensure the required shelf life. So perhaps I'll elaborate just a little bit how we work with the brands. So because we have lots of different packaging options, we offer different applications, we offer different films and laminates with the various barriers and properties that are suitable for different types of food. So first of all, when we are talking to a new company, so we ask what is the product that they are looking to pack. So what is the shelf life requirement? What are the moisture levels? What is the barrier needed? Then we also evaluate your current packaging. What is the current structure you're using? Then we also see whether you require a printed solution, what are the required dimensions, thickness, quantity. All of this can be customized. And then we offer a compostable solution that will be very close to your current packaging. Of course, if you don't have current packaging, or if you want to change it completely, we can also do that. We can develop something completely new. But if you're looking to replace your existing packaging and you're afraid that perhaps there will be a quality loss, so we can ensure that our packaging has a very, very similar performance to conventional plastics and has this great hand feel and has the same or very similar properties. So your customers will not need to compromise on quality nor on sustainability. And then once the packaging is no longer needed, it should be disposed of according to the label, which we always advise to print along with some compostable messaging, just brief message how to dispose the bag, if it's suitable for home compost or industrial compost. And then after reading this, the consumer can dispose the packaging in home or industrial compost, where the biodegradation, the disintegration and biodegradation processes will start. And in under 6 years, you'll have rich compost that will go back to the earth, will nourish it, will ensure growth of healthy plants, hence closing the loop and making it ready to start again. So I believe that you are curious to see some of our packaging in action, some more visuals of how our films and applications look like. So I'm happy to present them. And as I promised, I'll elaborate now a little bit more on films and what we offer converters. So we supply a variety of films and laminates, from single ply films to multi-layer structures with different barriers and properties. And we're always happy to advise regarding the right material choice, regarding machinability, to share our know-how, which we gained by doing our own trials, by working with a variety of customers that are looking to pack different products. We're also happy to advise what would be the perfect solution for your particular customer or for the products you're looking to pack. As you can see, we offer both transparent films and laminates, as well as metallized solutions and colorful films. All of them are certified fully compostable. And so if we take our Tipa 302 home compostable single ply film, so as I mentioned before, it's perfect for certain applications. It's perfect to pack, for example, fresh produce, and we have a lot of experience in packing fresh produce. Or it's perfect to pack fashion, but it can also be used as a sealant layer in lamination. So you can purchase it for these purposes. You can, of course, also purchase the entire laminate, or you can purchase just the structure, the formula, how to laminate yourself. And then you have the great added value that you'll be able to use our compostability certificate. Usually the certification process is lengthy and costly. So in this case, it would save you time and money. So because if you'll produce or you'll purchase exactly that same laminate from us, so you'll be able to keep and to use the compostability certificate and provide it to our clients. And I also want to give you just a recommendation that if you'll be looking for compostable packaging to purchase it from Tipa or another company, you should really request compostability certificate to make sure that it's not just a nice wordplay, because there are lots of companies that perhaps their packaging is really compostable, but they don't necessarily make all the steps to ensure it and to get it certified. There's also lots of, I would say, misuse or confusion regarding different terms. For example, some companies would claim their packaging biodegradable, which is a very vague term. It's partially synonymous to compostable, but not entirely, because biodegradation refers to the process, right? To the decomposition process of organic material, but it doesn't indicate under which conditions and during which time frame it would happen. So when we talk about composting, we already provide you with very specific conditions needed for the packaging to biodegrade, and also a specific time frame when this would happen. So now regarding food application, regarding pre-made food applications, something I haven't mentioned before about working with brands. I said that we are happy to advise you and really support you and go along you with all the way until the production, but there is more to that. We're also happy to keep in touch and promote each other post-production. We're really happy to join our PR efforts, and we've done this with many companies. So first of all, you can find a section of customer success stories on our website, and I strongly recommend visiting it. So you'll learn about different clients of ours, how they utilize our packaging, which products are they packing, what is their experience, what was their motivation to go compostable. One of my favorite sections of our website. We're also happy to do joint press release or to support each other on social media, not just for brand awareness, but also for spreading environmental awareness and the good practices. So now back to this particular example that you see here. Well, so this is an open wicketed bag that we produced for Waitrose retail chain in the UK that is packing organic bananas. And an interesting fact that these bananas actually originate in Peru and the Dominican Republic, and they get packed there. So, this is a great example of color choice and also a print of transparency. So you can see how this packaging combines our two important features, printability and transparency. So you can see the product pretty well, pretty clearly. You can see what it is, organic bananas, but then you also have the brand messaging and the compostable messaging perfectly combined. Here are a few more examples of our applications. In this case, produced from our laminates, transparent and metallized, and used to pack various dry foods such as muesli, bars, and snacks. Pretty challenging products for compostable packaging, but we're gaining more and more experience in packing them. And in the slide, you can see a few more sections, types of foods that we're packing. So here you can see a hookah tea stand-up pouch. Here on the right, it's another great example of combining transparency and printability. And perhaps this product and this packaging is already familiar to you. This is a wicketed open bag that we produced for Bimbo Group from Mexico, and they're packing their organic bread and in these bags. And on the left, you see another example of an open bag that is actually used to pack chilled food. So Tipa to film is also works very well with frozen and chilled produce, besides fresh produce and dry food that I mentioned before. And I'd like to share a few more words about this particular packaging and this particular brand. So we produce this packaging for Bostock Brothers, which is a small family-owned company from New Zealand, to be more precise, a family-owned farm. And they just got a sustainability award related to this packaging. And it's because they don't only use this packaging to pack the products and send it to customers. They do an extra step. So what we experienced working with lots of companies, not only Bostock Brothers, that they truly care that the packaging would get composted eventually, because it's not enough to just provide compostable packaging and hope that it will get composted. It's really important to educate the consumers. That's why we suggest to print compostable messaging. It's also important, and lots of our brands do it. They advise their customers where they can compost, where is the closest facility, or how to home compost. But the Bostock brothers did even more than that. After providing their customers with their product packed in Tipa's bags, they are offering that the customers would bring or send these bags back to them. And then the Bostock brothers would take care of the composting process themselves. So what they would do, they would compost these bags on the spot, on the site, in their own farm. Then they would use the compost full of nutrients to fertilize the maize, the crops they're growing. And this maize would be fed to the chickens that are eventually get packed in these bags. So they really employed our packaging and as a fully circular solution. And you can say they used it twice, right? They used it once for packaging for the original purpose, but then they really turned it into a resource. They used it twice as a fertilizer for their crops. Again, closing the loop and make it fully sustainable. So, and for this, they got a sustainability award. So it's really a pleasure to work with brands like this. We love all our brands, and they're doing so much effort in the education and in just really contributing to closing the loop. And I know I've been speaking mostly about food packaging until now, but we're also pretty strong in fashion packaging. We use the same films and laminates, and what has been happening in the beginning, so we were mostly approached by sustainable fashion brands that already had this core sustainability values. It was their ethos. They were doing also other sustainable practices. What we've noticed happening recently is that we're often approached by more mainstream brands, by brands that are just starting to explore compostable packaging, just starting to do their sustainable steps. And we're always happy to help them in this process, to help them go sustainable, to help them explore the options. And so in this slide, you see a resealable bag that we produced for Pangea brand. Here are a few more examples of different types of fashion packaging, from open bags, open pouches that we produced from our metallized laminate for one of our oldest clients and partners, Stella McCartney, a sustainable fashion designer from the UK. Also resealable bags, zipper bags from Tipa 302 film, as well as e-commerce mailers, something that's becoming increasingly popular during COVID times. And this one is produced from our white Tipa 302 film. So I'd also like to share, to give you a glimpse at a small part of our brands, and not only our brands, in general, our clients and our partners, our like-minded partners. We're really happy to cooperate with a wide range of different clients across the food industry, across the food sector, starting from converters to food retailers, food brands, small, medium, and large, as well as apparel and non-food brands. And so just to give you a few examples of what we're packing for whom. So for example, we already saw the Waitrose banana bags. We've got, for example, Ecoplaza is packing legumes. We've got Just Bio and their dry food. We've got Puka that is packing tea. Of course, we've got a number of sustainable brands that are packing clothing and accessories. And there is much more. So again, I kindly invite you to visit our website to find out more and see and visit the customer success stories. And in the first half of the presentation, I was speaking about the developments in China. In the beginning of 2018, that sent shockwaves around the world and really shocked the world and created this urgent need to look for solutions. So towards the end of that year, something very positive happened. In October 2018, lots of industry leaders gathered together and signed the new plastics economy global commitment. And they committed to start using only 100% reusable, recyclable, or compostable plastic packaging by 2025. So 3 more years to go. And there's already some great progress being reported and monitored. And what's also great is that lots of smaller brands, smaller companies follow their lead And they're also looking to replace it, start replacing their packaging, their current packaging, into more sustainable alternatives. And we are always happy to help new companies discover compostable packaging and go compostable, go sustainable. So I know I've been speaking a lot. I provided you with lots of facts, lots of details, perhaps sometimes too much information. So if there's one thing that I would like you to remember from this webinar, is our vision, is the vision that we are motivated by and inspired by. So at Tipa, we truly believe that flexible packaging should be part of our organic waste. It should decompose and fully go back to nature. So we believe that nature already invented the perfect packaging. So we don't need to look far. We just need to model nature to learn from it. And in this way, we go back to basics. We learn again to live in harmony with nature. And we believe that with solutions like ours, nature won't even notice that we are here. And so we're very happy to provide anyone interested with a more sustainable alternative to packaging, with a way to turn your waste into a resource. And so before moving to the Q&A session, before thanking you for your attention, I just like to share a suggestion. I'd like to encourage you to continue exploring after this webinar. And you may do so, begin to do so by visiting our website, tipa-corp.com, where you will find lots of interesting information, not only about our products and our technology, but also about general topics of sustainability, composting, lots of good practices, tips, and so on. And furthermore, I'd like to suggest to keep in touch. You will have my contact details from Alejandro, so you can either drop me a line, or when visiting our website, you will also find an inquiry form there, a general or purchasing inquiry form. So in whichever stage you are, whether you're just looking for more information, more resources, to have the full picture and to be able to make an informed decision, if you're looking for advice on if compostable packaging is still completely new to you, we're happy to advise. Or if you already know that you want to go compostable and you already know the details and you already know what applications interest you, that's also great. So then we can proceed quickly. So I advise to drop us a line, to send us an inquiry if you require more information, or if you'd like to inquire regarding purchasing, and we will get back to you in maximum 2 days. So I want to thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to move to the Q&A session, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Avital. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, and you too, Nicole? Okay. I want to read the question in Spanish to Nicole, and Nicole translate to Avital to the answers. Okay, Nicole. Sí, ¿me vas a comentar algo, Nicole? Avital, can you hear Nicole?
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Entiendo que nuestros participantes también nos escuchan, así que creo que todos estamos bien. Le puedes comentar a Avital, voy a dividir los grupos de preguntas en tres. Veo que hay preguntas acerca del material con el que producir el empaque, es una duda. 2, acerca de las propiedades de los materiales de empaque. Y 3, de los usos. Entonces voy a tratar de dividir todas las preguntas que han ido formulando los participantes en esos 3 renglones. Entonces, vamos a comenzar acerca de las dudas principales sobre lo de un material compostable. Si le puedes traducir eso para comenzar entonces con las preguntas.
Okay. Right. Great.
Perfecto. Oscar Pérez pregunta, la materia prima de compostables, o sea, de materiales compostables, ¿utilizan tierras para cultivos de alimentos?
Okay, right. Okay, so basically, we use a variety of compostable polymers that come from both sources. They come also from bio-based sources, such as sugar beet or corn, that's non-food grade, and also from fossil-based polymers. But I want to emphasize that all these materials are fully compostable.
Ok. Otra pregunta viene de Su, que pregunta, ¿qué residuos de materia prima utilizan para la elaboración de productos? Entiendo que la pregunta de Su va hacia si utilizan algún tipo de material reciclado en la conformación de los nuevos empaques compostables.
Okay. No, we do not use recycled materials, recycled polymers. We use compostable polymers, and in general, our materials, our films and laminates, they are not recyclable in the traditional sense. Composting is considered to be an organic form of recycling, right? Organic waste recycling, but it's not suitable to be placed in recycling stream. It will contaminate it. It should be composted. Also, the base materials are not recyclable.
Perfecto. Ok, hoy dos preguntas más en este aspecto. Un segundo. Ajá. Oscar Pérez también vuelve a preguntar, ¿los compostables o los materiales compostables liberan carbono? ¿Esto no estaría aportando gases de efecto invernadero?
Um, Right. So when you compost, you do get the three types of final products of organic matter, which is CO2, water, and biomass. But what composting actually does, it's very different from releasing CO2 in atmosphere during man-made actions. Composting actually returns the carbon back to the soil. And I'd like to recommend watching a great documentary on Netflix called Kiss the Soil, which speaks a lot about how the soils are depleted and how it is important to capture carbon, and composting helps not only to capture the carbon from the atmosphere, but also to return it back to the ground, something called a sequestration of carbon. So just maybe, Kiss the Soil. Even if I may go in a bit more detail about how composting works itself. So basically, you need to take the greens and the browns in certain quantities, in certain proportions. So the greens, these are like fruit and vegetable scraps, non-greasy food scraps, green leaves, and so on. And they provide nitrogen to compost. And then you have the browns, like dry leaves, straw, dry branches, and compostable packaging that provide carbon to the compost. And they both are needed for the biodegradation process to happen. And then as a result, carbon is actually returned back to the soil. Yeah, and the documentary is called Kiss the Soil.
Perfecto. Precisamente sobre esa pregunta, incluso antes de la exposición de Avital, lo conversaba con ella el días pasados. La consulta sería, ¿este material compostable, después de usar, en el caso del material de Tipa, requiere un compostaje, un proceso de compostaje industrial o puede recibir un tipo de proceso de compostaje distinto? Porque hay una consulta que es si en lugar de llevarlo a un centro de compostaje industrial, lo arrojo en un vertedero, digamos, tradicional, no sufriría o no otorgaría la misma cantidad de contaminante que un plástico tradicional.
Mhm. Right. Okay. So basically, our packaging acts just like organic waste, and it should be disposed together with your organic waste, ideally in compost. So we can guarantee that our packaging will biodegrade in compost. And there are two types of, well, there are lots of types of compost, but here we're speaking about two generic types. It's home compost and industrial compost. So usually, as I mentioned before, industrial compost is like more organized, there's more control, higher temperature, and the process is faster. So you have to look at our bags, our packaging. It should be marked there whether this particular bag is home compostable or industrial compostable. But when we speak about home compostable, so it doesn't mean that you can just throw the bag in your regular rubbish bin or throw it into a landfill. We haven't tested our bags in the landfill. We think that it will act just like regular organic waste. We strongly recommend to dispose it off in a compost. Again, our packaging will eventually biodegrade also in non-composting conditions, but we cannot guarantee how long it will take. And inside the compost, under composting conditions, we can give you that exact time frame.
Perfecto. Vamos entonces a pasar hacia la parte de propiedades de este tipo de material. La primera pregunta que hacen es, Humberto dice, si hay algún tipo de disminución en propiedades barrera de vapor de agua y oxígeno, utilizando obviamente los empaques de Tipa. Creo que barrera se puede traducir barrio, por si acaso, Nicole.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what do you mean in the process of recycling?
No, sorry, Nicole. No, when you use your packaging, your Tipa packaging, Umberto asking about we can lose barrier properties in water or oxygen in comparison with other materials.
Right. Okay. Okay. Great. So basically, we currently offer a variety of different solutions of different films and laminates with different properties. So, for example, our Tipa 302 film has a pretty low barrier properties, but our laminates, our multiply laminates, have much higher properties, suitable for example, to pack dry food. So I believe you're also asking about shelf life. So in general, we give a guarantee for any fluoride protection for 6 months. But from our experience with different customers, we see that many of them are using our packaging for around a year. Again, this really depends on the product being packed. This really depends on the type of packaging, and this very much depends on the storage condition. So if the past packaging will not be exposed to high heat and high humidity when storing it or when handling it, which are the composting conditions, it will definitely not biodegrade. It is shelf stable. It will not biodegrade on the shelf. But with time, it will start to slowly decrease in quality. And this usually happens after perhaps 10, 12 months, 13 months. So again, it's really individual. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean that it will biodegrade. It will not turn into compost. For example, it might become a bit more easily torn, or a bit less durable, or perhaps the zipper may not work as well. But we're speaking about like a period of around a year later. Yeah, you have to have in mind that it's not one-to-one with conventional plastics. If you can take conventional plastics and store them in your warehouse for, I don't know, 5 years, so it's not the same. You should have this in mind. But then again, conventional plastics, the price you pay for conventional plastics, like not literally, but the price you pay for storing conventional plastics for so long, is that eventually they'll stay for another 500 years in a landfill. Whereas you can use our packaging for up to a year, or sometimes, especially with fashion, even longer, even above the year, because the most sensitive period is when you're packing the product. So we suggest to do the packing in the first 6 months. And then once the product is packed, you don't really handle it, you don't stretch the packaging, you don't put waste. So it can stay even around a year or so under cool and dry conditions.
Perfecto. Sí, esas son, digamos, condiciones tradicionales en que plásticos convencionales incluso deberían ser mantenidos, ¿no? En almacenaje. La última pregunta con respecto a propiedades es que Avital mencionó, aquí algo que consulta Miguel Collin, que Avital mencionó las tintas que utilizan son compostables o el uso en tan bajo porcentaje que no afecta el proceso de compostaje. Entonces, las tintas que utiliza Tipa para sus empaques son compostables o es que están en un porcentaje tan bajo que no afecta el proceso de compostaje. Con esa pregunta ya pasamos a la sección después de usos.
Great. Mhm. Right. Sure. Mm. Actually, we only use fully compostable inks. Just like we use the compostable zippers, we also use compostable inks. There are some restrictions and there are guidelines on this, and we have a pre-press expert that is happy to assist and to make sure that the packaging will remain fully compostable. But as you've seen in the previous slides, we can't really produce a printed packaging that looks like just conventional plastic with these compostable inks.
Perfecto. Entonces vamos a la última parte de preguntas que es referente a usos. Primero, Lisbeth Manrique. ¿Tienen películas compostables para productos líquidos o semisólidos?
That's a great question. I was expecting it. I'm afraid that currently we do not offer packaging solutions for liquids or very moist products because humidity is one of the parameters that enhances the biodegradation process of compostable materials. So at the moment, we can pack just dry products or products with a low or medium moisture content.
Perfecto. Entonces, iba a ser una pregunta de Jorge Ramos. Jorge, creo que con lo que acaba de contestar Avital, digamos, aplicación para tintes de cabello, creo que no sería viable en este momento. Eh, a pesar que creo que Avital lo mostró, Ricardo Herrera pregunta si los empaques de Tipa pueden ser utilizados para contener café.
Yes, I admit that coffee is not our main field. Until now we have more experience in, for example, packing fresh produce or dry food or fashion, but we have some experience in packing coffee, and we are happy to develop here and to grow here together.
Perfecto. Hacerle esta pregunta, por si acaso, Nicole, Juan Morales pregunta si pueden ser usados para productos de limpieza o cuidado personal. Pone como ejemplo, Juan, champú, jabón líquido, detergente líquido. Ya sé que aclaró Avital que líquidos no, pero vamos a hacerle la pregunta acerca de productos de limpieza o cuidado personal.
Look, we are happy to explore, just to really research and investigate each inquiry for each product. Shampoo, though, and then similar and liquid soap currently are still not products we can pack, unless you're looking for a secondary packaging.
Okay. Perfecto. Voy a hacer una pregunta que iba a dejar para el final, pero creo que con la respuesta de Avital es conveniente, que ella dice que se puede utilizar como empaque secundario. Sonia Cerrón pregunta si podemos utilizar, digamos, las láminas o los films de Tipa para laminar con otro tipo de material. Creo que es una pregunta ideal para salir muchos de dudas de los que estamos en este mercado. O sea, si se puede laminar, si utilizando láminas de Tipa o films de Tipa, se puede laminar con plásticos convencionales. Ese es un proceso que normalmente utilizamos en el mercado tradicional. A ver qué te contesta Avital.
I mean, you can definitely use our single ply film as a sealant layer and the lamination process with other materials, for example, paper or other films. But I'm not entirely sure about conventional plastic. I would assume so. But then I would be wondering what would be the purpose of this, because eventually this laminated product would not be compostable.
Yeah. Perfecto. No, Nicole, está perfecta la interpretación, puesto que es una duda que normalmente surge, ¿no? Si utilizamos una capa compostable y la coloco con uno convencional, ¿la mezcla es nuevamente compostable o no se puede compostar? Es una duda que casi siempre surge en este mundo. Zenobio Rivera pregunta si las bolsas compostables de Tipa pueden servir para productos de telecomunicaciones de fibra óptica que él requiere empacar. Ya, ya. Zenobio, si estás conectado y tienes alguna especificación particular de tus productos de fibra óptica, sería bueno, ¿no? Entiendo que sería algún tipo de cableado el que deseas almacenar, pero creo que con la respuesta que hasta ahora ha dado Avital, pareciera que la respuesta sería positiva. Claro, a mí me queda la duda, sabes que estos tipos de artículos relacionados con telecomunicaciones tienen algunas puntas o pueden ser punzantes al empaque. Entonces, quizás si le das detalles acerca de ese tipo de estructura.
Right. Yes, in general, we can pack a variety of products. In this falls under the category of non-food. So theoretically, I do not see how it would be a problem. And we can produce quite thick bags. For example, for films, it would go up to 80 microns. For laminates, up to 100 microns. So yeah, so it would really depend. We would need to ask, for the characteristics, for the requirements. Are there any sensitivities that we need to know? And we're also happy to send samples for just trying. So I invite invite this company to reach out to us by filling in an inquiry form on our website.
Perfect, Avital. This company is from Mexico. Maybe it's Zenobio Rivera, the asking person. Maybe want to have some consult with you, with question with you. Sorry, Nicole. Micrones, sí, está bien. Micrones. Sí. Perfecto.
Just to clarify, 80 microns for films and 100 microns for laminates. That's the current maximum we offer.
Perfecto. De acuerdo. Sí, obviamente lo que buscan con ese espesor de pared es que sea más resistente a la penetración de cualquier tipo de material punzante, ¿no? Los envases fabricados con las láminas de Tipa pueden ser sometidos a procesos térmicos como autoclaves. Ese es un proceso con el cual yo esterilizo algún contenido. A ver, consúltale si puede ser sometido a estos procesos térmicos.
Thermoforming?
Not yet. This is other question.
Okay. So just to clarify a little bit, so we not really produce like containers. That would fall under rigid packaging. We produce flexible packaging like pouches, standard pouches, bags.
Yeah, maybe a standard pouch or
Right. So it really depends. In this case, we always explore this on case-to-case basis. In general, our packaging should not be exposed to high temperatures. But if it's for a brief time, it might work. So we really need to investigate this and perhaps do a trial. Actually, I suggest to visit our website, our product catalog, and you can request a technical data sheets there. And there you will find the exact storage condition, and you'll find the temperatures, what's allowed for storing, what's allowed for brief contact, and so on.
Perfecto. Yo cada vez que Avital menciona la página web, yo la estoy colocando en el chat. En el chat, a los participantes tienen la página web de Tipa y pueden consultar cómo lo sugiere Avital.
Thank you so much. Perfect service.
Sí. La última pregunta, y esto ya Avital acaba de dejar claro que no trabajan con empaques rígidos. Sin embargo, hay una pregunta sobre si llegan a fabricar láminas para termoformado. Digamos, ese es un mismo proceso, Nicole, te lo cuento a ti. Este es un mismo proceso con el que hago la lámina, pero el espesor es mayor. Entonces, quizás llegue hasta ese límite. Preguntar si han trabajado con películas o láminas para termoformado, termoforming.
Mm-hmm. Right. So in general, our materials are not thermoformable. So we cannot provide the bottom web, but we can provide the top web, the lidding laminate.
Mm. Superior.
Top web.
Flexible, la parte flexible que puedo retirar o que se puede retirar. Digamos, eso puede ser algún conveniente de que si yo tengo un envase rígido, por ejemplo, fabricado de material reciclado, ya estoy haciendo una aportación a la sostenibilidad, y si utilizo esa parte flexible para retirar de material compostable como el de Tipa, pues colaboro pues, en el mismo sentido de la reciclabilidad. Si puedes, Nicole, tú puedes también al final le dices que Zenobio Rivera le colocó el correo electrónico a Avital en el chat.
You can actually find also compostable bottom parts. There are
Yeah.
thermoformal, there are rigid compostable plastics. Just we do not supply them. We concentrate in particular on flexible packaging, but you can find a compostable bottom web.
Sure. Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the mail of Zenobio Rivera, who asked about your AT packaging for telecommunication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Sure.
Okay.
I'll take a note of it later.
Yeah, perfect. Ok. Bueno, hemos llegado al final de nuestro webinar del día de hoy. Queremos agradecer muchísimo a Avital, Levy y a Tipa por habernos acompañado, y a Gal Mazzani, que es en backstage. Obviamente a Nicole, la que ha servido de traducción simultánea el día de hoy. Espero que este webinar haya sido de provecho pues, para todos nuestros participantes. Quería pedirle quizás unas palabras de despedida a Avital pues, para cerrar.
Yeah. Well, yes, of course. Great. So I really want to thank you once again very much for this opportunity. We're thrilled to have been given the floor, the stage to speak about Tipa for an hour. It rarely happens. Usually we have to share the floor with other participants. So it's really nice to have this great audience, great questions, more than I expected, but I was really happy, and I hope I provided enough information. If not, please get in touch with me or visit our website for more details. And really, thank you so much, organizers. Thank you, Alejandro, and thank you, Nicole. I know it was challenging. I know I do speak fast, and lots of technical terms were involved, but I believe the results were really good. So really, thank you all, and I hope we'll keep in touch.
Perfecto, pues excelente. Muchas gracias, Avital, muchas gracias, Nicole, y a tu equipo de Seman también. Gracias a todos los participantes, espero por los comentarios que pueden ver en el chat que haya sido de provecho para ustedes, y no nos queda más que invitarles para la tercera webinar de esta serie el día de mañana, y los esperamos a las 7 de la noche, hora Lima, hora Bogotá. Thank you very much, Avital. Thank you very much,
Pleasure.
Thank you very much, Gal, in backstage, and thank you very much, Nicole.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Gracias. Chao, chao.